Hello students, welcome to Unit 12, Motivation and Emotion. In Unit 12.1 we will begin our discussion with just motivation. Because we're working on group projects and presentations this unit, I'm not going to really elaborate too much because that's your job for your presentations. So I'm just going to kind of stick to the facts, give you the basic information, and we'll move on. So first and foremost, what is motivation? Motivation is a need or desire that energizes and directs behavior. Motivation can come from within, like intrinsic motivation. It's a self-motivation to succeed or do well in school or a particular athletic or sporting event. Or we can have extrinsic motivation where we need someone to motivate us with either money or food or grades, for instance. Which seems like the educational system today might be doing harm to intrinsic motivation. It's replacing students' desire to learn for its own sake, to be a more well-rounded individual, and it's replacing that desire with just, hey, got to get a good grade, got to get good GPA, which is a little sad. So in this unit, we're going to be discussing theories of motivation. For instance, this guy on the left, his name is Mark Willman, and he's a paraplegic. And for some reason, he was motivated to do the equivalent of about 5,000 pull-ups to climb the almost vertical face of Half Dome at Yosemite National Park. And the picture to the right is my nephew at Yosemite National Park, and you can see Half Dome in the background. A paraplegic, this guy, Mark Willman, climbed that whole thing just using his arms. What motivates someone to do something like that? Well, before we get too in-depth with motivation and how emotion influences motivation and all the complexities involved, let's talk first about the most basic, instincts. Instincts are a complex behavior that is rigidly patterned throughout a species and is unlearned. It's natural. It is innate. It's within us when we're born. Some instincts are attachment, fear, disgust, rivalry, greediness, curiosity, shyness, cleanliness, love, anger. These are all instincts, our emotions that we feel naturally, that we're born with. Now, not all people have these instincts. Some people are different. There are exceptions to every rule. For instance, someone who has no feeling of love or sympathy, who can't understand the emotions of others, we call those people psychopaths. So our first major theory of motivation is called the drive reduction theory. And the drive reduction theory is the idea that a physiological need creates an aroused tension or a state of deprivation that motivates an organism to satisfy the need. So the sequence is we have a need, okay? Our need is physiological fundamentally. So we need food, we need water to live, okay? So food, water, this is tough. All right. That need is going to eventually lead to a drive. If we lack food for a long period of time, then it's going to lead to the drive of hunger. Okay? All right. And so when we feel hungry, that is going to motivate us to act. And so we're going to act in a way that reduces that drive. So we're going to experience drive reduction behavior. I have to spell this with my finger because some reason it wouldn't come up on the typing. All right, so we have a need like food or water. So when we don't have food or water, that drives us like hunger or thirst to act, like eat or drink. So that's drive reduction theory. The next theory of motivation is called the Yerkes-Dodson law of arousal and performance. It's important to note that when we say arousal, we are talking about physical arousal. So arousal needed for physical ability or physical behavior like running, tackling, laying out for a frisbee. All right. So the Yerkes-Dodson law states that performance peaks at lower levels of physical arousal for difficult tasks and at higher levels for easier or well-learned tasks. So if you look at the graph here, if we have low levels of physical arousal, that means that our body is not utilizing energy for physical means. that frees up the energy in our body to be used or utilized by our brain so that we can accomplish more difficult or mental tasks like taking an AP exam or taking an SAT, for instance. However, if we have high levels of physical arousal, then that is going to drain the energy required for clear thinking and cognitive processing. However, we will be able to perform easier tasks better because easier tasks are typically associated with physical tasks, like raking the leaves, mowing the yard, going on a jog, for instance. How easy would it be to pass the SAT or to do well on the SAT if you were running a marathon at the same time? It would be really, really difficult, and that's why both physical and mental arousal would be diminished as a result. Now, this one got totally screwed up. I don't know what happened with technology here, but now let's talk about incentive theory and how it affects rewards and motivation. Incentive is a positive or negative environmental stimulus that motivates behavior. One type of incentive is called controlling reward. Controlling reward. And a controlling reward, or an example of a controlling reward, is like your mom will say, hey, I'll give you $5 for every A that you make in class. Well, this is going to develop extrinsic motivation. All right? The child will say, well, hey, as long as she pays me, then yeah, I'll work hard and do well. That's not really the type of rewards parents want to give, because the parent doesn't want a child to develop extrinsic motivation. A parent wants a child to develop intrinsic motivation. They want the child to want to succeed just for the sake of succeeding. So they might use what's called informative. Man, typing and talking is not easy. Informative rewards. An example of an informative reward would be like, your grades were great. Let's celebrate by going out for dinner. You reward them after their success. You don't give them incentive to succeed. So the child will be like, hey, we're going out to dinner because I did well. Maybe I should keep doing well just because it brings about rewards on its own. So that develops intrinsic motivation within that child. The next theory that impacts motivation is one that may look familiar to you. It's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. According to Maslow, our needs begin at the base with physiological needs that must first be satisfied for our survival, like food and water. The next need is shelter, so safety needs. All right? Then higher levels of safety needs become active. Then physiological needs become active. All right? So if you think about different societies and different cultures, they have different needs. How might those needs influence their motivation? We'll discuss that more in class. Because we live in an industrialized first world country, especially here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, most people have the physical needs, the safety needs, the most basic needs that they need according to Maslow. So having a sense of belonging, having self-esteem needs, or needs for self-actualization are more characteristic of our community. So Maslow's characteristics of self-actualized people are people who have accurate perceptions of themselves and of others. Self-actualized people are spontaneous, they're natural and open in their behavior and thoughts. They focus on problems outside themselves, not just within themselves. They often dedicate themselves to a larger purpose in life, which is based on ethics or a sense of personal responsibility. They have a sense of autonomy, and they continued freshness of appreciation of new ideas. They love to learn new things. They have a sense of wonder. And that's if they didn't have the most basic needs of food and water and shelter and togetherness and belonging, then they wouldn't be able to accomplish these things, because the more basic needs would occupy their time and their efforts. Oh, and that concludes this video. See you guys next time.